Hello, everyone. We're so happy that you could join us today. I'm Riz, and we also have Fatima here with us. And today we are going to be discussing the topic of leadership. So we hope you all are ready. Before we get started, we do have a few safe from harm reminders. We want to remind everyone that safety is a top priority for all of us. So let's not forget that. And if anytime during these entire event, if you feel unsafe or in an uncomfortable situation, please remember that you can reach out to a listening ear. And it is also important for us all to remember that we have a duty to report. So if you see any harmful activity happening, please do report it. And lastly, let's continue to provide a safe environment because Scouting should be a safe place for everyone. So Fatima, what do we have on the agenda for today?
All right, thank you, Reese. Hi, everyone. Happy Jota Jodi. Well, today we're going to talk about leadership, which a word we're sure many of you are familiar with. And so we're going to talk about how we can practice leadership, how we can become better leaders. And after that, we're going to have a Q&A session. And we encourage you all to write your questions throughout the presentation, throughout the session. And then we're going to read them out and try to answer all of your questions. Back to you, Reese.
Thanks, Fatima. So now we have a question for you all. We want to know, what does leadership mean to you? So in one word, we are going to be sharing a link to Slido in the chat. Please click on the link, go to Slido, and type in your one word to the question here. What does leadership mean to you? We're definitely curious as to what your answers will be. And just checking for a moment, Fatima, were you able to send the link?
Yes,
the link there it is. Perfect. Thank you so much. So everyone, feel free to go ahead and click on the link and let us know, what does leadership mean to you? In the meantime, Fatima, what are your thoughts on this question?
Well, that's a tough question. And for me, it's a bit philosophical as well. But I think leadership for me is the ability to be a team player along with being a leader and with being able to lead, as well as the ability to inspire others, your teammates, and also to be flexible and be innovative in your approach. What about you, Reese?
That's so great. I think we have the same mindset there when it comes to leadership. I also agree that as a leader, we are paving the way for other people to follow. And so it's really important for us to be that mentor, to be that role model. And that's a huge part of the inspiration behind leadership. So now that we've heard a little bit about our perspective, I am really excited to hear what everyone else thinks. Do we have any answers yet on the Slido?
Yeah.
Okay, there they are. Awesome, and they're coming in. So we have guidance, selflessness, I like that word, pillar, teamwork, responsibility, being a great leader.
Heroic and capable to help and guide. That's great. And there's a lot of responsibility. I guess that's also one of the first words that comes to my mind as well. So that's good.
It is a huge responsibility, isn't it?
Sure.
Yep, work, mentor, capable to help and guide, heroic. Nice. You guys are so creative with your words. I love it.
Yes, some of our fellow scouts think that leadership is also art. And I think it's actually great. It's an interesting word to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I never thought about it that way, but that's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I see unafraid, support. Wow, okay. Driver, yes. You guys are amazing. These are wonderful answers and clearly shows us that leadership is a part of Scouting for sure. Wonderful. Okay. Well, now that we've had a clearer picture of what leadership means to us, let's go ahead and go on to our next slide.
Yeah, let us share some tips, right? Tips on leadership.
I don't think it's tips quite yet. I think it's examples of leadership.
Okay.
Yeah?
I'll slow down.
Okay, awesome. So here are some examples of leadership or times that I've used leadership in my life. And I wanted to share a little bit about that with you all. First, I use leadership a lot when I do teaching. I teach at a university part-time, and recently I had the honor of being the director of ceremonies for the graduation ceremony. And I was able to see the first set of students that I taught 4 years ago graduate. And that was amazing because I was like, wow, it was a part of their journey and helping them acquire this accomplishment in their life. So it was just amazing. And also, I am a assistant group leader for a local troop here in my country. And so I have had the opportunity to mentor and help younger individuals grow up in the scouting program and contribute to their own leadership capabilities. That's been something that's really a highlight from my life. And I also have been able to use leadership in my position as the Messengers of Peace coordinator, where I've helped scouts throughout the country within the Scout Association of Belize to create and implement their Messengers of Peace projects. So that's also another example. And I cannot forget that I am the oldest of 4. So although I am the shortest, which I don't know how that happened, but it did, I have had the great honor of being able to be beside my siblings and help them in their journeys of life. Because, you know, life is full of ups and downs. And so having an older sibling is always nice. So yeah, you can see that I've used leadership in a lot of different areas in my life. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight there is that no matter where you are or who you are, you can use leadership. We recently learned that during COVID, we had to stay at home. And even while at home, we could still use our leadership and the different activities and events that we were able to be a part of within scouting. So a little bit about me. Now, Fatima, tell me, how have you been able to use leadership?
Well, that was very interesting to hear about your journey, Reese, and starting your leadership from being an older sister and going through scouts and your work and your studies. It's really amazing to hear. Now a bit about my journey. As you can see from the pictures, my main leadership skills that I learned were from scouting. But something out of scouting that I want to mention is the little picture here that says Flex. Flex is a leadership program, an exchange program where they send out teenagers to a different country, and we basically learn how to be good leaders and be good representatives of our countries, and lead our way, and also inspire other people and other young people in our countries to do the same. So this is also a place where I learned how to use my leadership skills to be a team player and to help others. But mainly, of course, a place where I started developing my leadership skills from a young age is scouting. As you can see, there are pictures on my social projects. One is from the Jamboree. The one from the little kids here was my MOP project. It was on social area, and we were implementing scouting as a non-formal education in the orphanages. So we were implementing the scouting method there. And I'm really proud to say that these kids are also now part of scouting in Azerbaijan, in my home country. And another thing that I wanted to share is where I experienced and I really practiced my leadership skills were at the World Scout Youth Forum, and a bit at the conference in 2017. Here I'm on the picture with my friend Bascuda. We were MCs at the Youth Forum. I was part of the host team, and I felt that big responsibility, that big word that was on the word cloud. Being just fresh 18-year-old, it was a big responsibility for me, but also a big chance to prove that young people in my country, although it's from a small country as well, and I guess you can relate to that as well, Reese, that we can actually do something, right? It's not about age, but also about learning, about experiencing things. So yeah, that's a bit about my leadership journey.
Thanks so much for sharing, Fatima. I think we've learned now that we're not only leaders as youth advisors, but we're leaders in every area of our life. And it's so wonderful to hear your story as well, and how scouting was a huge part of your leadership journey. Great. Well, now I think we can move on to those tips that you mentioned earlier. Yeah, awesome.
Let's dive in.
Yes. Let's get started and look at those. We have 6 tips on leadership to share with you all. The first one is to build trust. I don't know how many of you have heard of the trust fall, but it's this really cool activity where you have one individual standing in front of another. The person behind you will catch you because the first person will fall backwards, right? So as the person in front, you need to trust that the person behind you is going to actually catch you and not let you fall to the ground because you can't see them. And so this is the type of trust or relationship that's really important when it comes to leadership. And a huge part of building this trust deals with communication and having everyone on the same page. Now, as a leader, we should always lead by example. Sometimes you might see individuals sitting back and watching everyone else do the work. Well, that's not true leadership. True leaders will be right at the forefront with their working boots on, helping the team move forward. And then as leaders, it's also important for us to seek support when we need it. Because even though we'd love to be superheroes, we can't always do it all. And so whenever we find support or ask for help, then it shows everyone around us and our team that we are caring for them and understanding that we have a limit as well. So this builds trust and understanding because we have a more open and transparent relationship with one another. And then, of course, we have honor your commitments, because if we say that we're going to do something, it's really important for us to follow through. If we don't, then this will show our team that we don't really value them as much as we should. And that's not the picture that we want to show as leaders. All right, so now that we've discussed tip number 1, let's move on to tip number 2. Which is to actively listen. Actively listen deals with trying to understand other points of view. So oftentimes you'll be in a conversation and you'll think, oh, I don't agree with this person. But it's not really about agreeing with them. It's more about understanding what they're trying to say. And in order for us to do that, we have to not interrupt them and also not ignore what they are sharing with us. We can also actively listen by asking questions if something is unclear. So if someone has mentioned something to you, but you don't quite understand what they're trying to say, then maybe you can try summarizing what they discussed and then repeating it back to them and asking them, is this what you're trying to say, or did I miss something? This way, we can ensure that we are getting the bigger picture when it comes to the message that they're trying to deliver to us. And we can be aware of non verbal reactions. Is the individual, while they're sharing their message, are they feeling a little bit nervous, or are they like super excited? This helps us as leaders to gauge the energy and the attitude of what they're trying to say. So that's tip number 2. And if we move on to tip number 3, we'll look at encourage. So as leaders, we've mentioned this before. We're mentors, we're role models, and it's really important for us to provide that positive energy within the team, because challenges are going to happen, right? And that's okay. But what we need to do is we need to look at those challenges as opportunities to overcome, to improve, to become better. These are the qualities that we showcase as leaders. And as leaders, we also need to provide support. Support is so important because we'll have many different team members around us, and they are going to have different needs. So as leaders, we can definitely support them by reaching out and finding out what are the areas that we can help you with. Let's see how we can work together, because as leaders, we want to see everyone succeeding. And then, of course, recognize accomplishments, because when we do good, it's good to recognize that. And as scouts, we know that our accomplishments are so valuable to our communities. This means that as leaders, we need to highlight that and make sure that others know of the good work that we are doing and that everyone else is doing as well. And then, of course, with recognizing accomplishments comes celebration. Celebrating, I know you guys like to party. And this is great because we need to once again come together and recognize that we've done so much, and we need to honor that and celebrate it. So as leaders, we need to lead that celebration so that everyone knows that this is what we have done and what we will continue to do. All right, so those are 3 fun tips about leadership. And I think Fatima has 3 more for us, so I'll hand it over to her.
Thanks, Reese. Yes, we have 3 more tips. They're a bit more on practicalities, and as you mentioned before. So tip number 4, set clear goals and expectations. We believe that it's one of the keys to success for sure. For example, per se, in scouting, we have Vision 2023, right? So to achieve Vision 2023, we have set of goals and expectations. We have deadlines, which means we have a plan on how we're going to work towards achievement of Vision 2023. Why it is also important to have those goals and expectations set, to have our purpose and our vision in mind at all times. So it's important to reflect and go back to the start and to actually sit aside and think about the start of the project per se, or how we started the vision and what was our goal in the beginning. Also, setting a certain goal leads to a better productivity. So it creates productivity. You can achieve your goals faster. You don't necessarily have to have super big goals. You can start with something small and then lead your way to bigger goals and achieving your vision. That's one. That's number 4. Going to number 5. That's number 5. We think that it's also very important to be open to new ideas. And the reason why is good leaders have to understand and accept that the change is inevitable. Although we don't necessarily like this topic, but going back to COVID, nobody really expected this to happen, right? This was something new, and actually we tried to look at it more as a challenge because it was our new reality, right? So what we did is we thought about the ways of how we can work now that we have a new reality. So how do we adapt? How we can be more flexible? Do we adapt our youth program to an online system, for example? So it means that we need to embrace change and innovation, be open to new ideas, and also alternative ways of thinking. Per se, if you include your team as a leader into the discussion of the ideas, again, taking Vision 2023, it wasn't a one person creating, it was a whole movement basically included into creation of this vision, right? So basically you have different people with different mindsets, different ways of thinking, coming together at a table and putting up a vision. Having a lot of perspectives is good because it gives you a fresh mind, like the Slido that we did, right? So we had, for example, a word art. This is definitely not something that I thought of when I was thinking about leadership. What is leadership to me? Responsibility, yes, like encouragement, but I haven't thought about art. So same happens with when you work on something as a project or a vision or whatever you're working on with your scouting group, right? So that's why it's good to be open to new ideas. And last but not least, number 6, we can go to the next slide, is ask for feedback. This is something that we do a lot in scouting and now in my day-to-day life as well at my work. Basically, your team members or your patrol, the team that you're working with, they're not the only ones that can benefit from the feedback. So it's important to not only get feedback from a leader, but it's important for a leader to get a feedback from the team, because sometimes they can see something from the side that you can't. And maybe that will help you to think about a different approach if you get the honest feedback from your teammates. And also, it's important to do a true self-assessment, right? Other than an important thing as an assessment in general, it's also important to reflect on your own. But also talking to friends and peers, it can give you necessary perspective on your leadership style and approach, of course. Yeah, I think these are all our tips. So back to you, Reese.
Thanks for sharing those final 3 tips, Fatima. I think that they're very important within our positions as leaders to remember. And I wanted to highlight one thing when you talked about the vision. As you all know, we have Vision 2023, and currently in the process, the vision that will be replacing that is currently being created. And so if you haven't heard already, it was mentioned earlier today at the opening ceremonies, we have youth talks. And so if you are between the ages of 15 to 18, feel free to check that out and contribute to that process. Great. Now that we have talked a little bit about those tips on leadership, I see that we have some questions in the chat box. So let's take a look at those. Fatima, do you see the questions?
Yes. There was a question about the event code that will be shared with you a bit later.
Yes.
So please stay tuned with us. So there is a question on what are the important aspects of leadership? Well, I think we mentioned several, but do you have something in mind, Reese?
Yeah, so I think as leaders, it's important for us to be honest, to also be empathetic and understanding to others around us, to provide support, like we had mentioned earlier, as well as to pave the way forward whenever you mentioned setting those clear guidelines and goals. We have a direction that we want to take our team in, but they won't know where to go if we don't show them the way. So this has a lot to do with the different aspects of leaders. And yeah, that's a little bit that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's nice. I would also probably mention two things. One is communication skills, because it's important how you communicate your vision to your teammates so that they can better understand you. And the other one is problem solving skills or risk management. And I think this is something important for leaders because, I mean, again, mentioning COVID, it was important, I think, and it was a big challenge for leaders to deal with it in the beginning. So yeah, it's important that you accept the challenge and you think differently to think how you can solve problems in a quick way and in an effective way as well.
That's so true. All right, I think that we also had a question about how would you boost a sagging team's morale? Any insights on that, Fatima?
Oof, it's a tough one, I would say. I think one thing that although everything is good with moral of the World Scout Committee, but something that we do constantly is we're doing team building activities. Even during our meetings, we're trying to boost our moods up and to have some energizers, to think about the ways how we can work as a team, how we can engage more. We do peer-to-peer reviews, for example. All of us all have buddies that we can share with if we feel uncomfortable about something, or if we just want to say hi and in the morning to someone and motivate him for the day, we can do that. So we try to encourage each other to do that more. So I think something that you should do more is to be connected to your team, not only with something that you're doing per se in scouting, but also to have this interpersonal relations as well.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think that as leaders, we have to understand that we are also a part of the team. And so team building is a huge part of leadership. And you shared some really great practical ways of, boosting the team's morale. And I think another thing is evaluation, because if you don't really know what the issues are, then you can't address them in the best way. So as a team and as a leader, you should be able to figure out what exactly are the problems here and how can we improve on them. We can do this through evaluations. It can be one-on-one evaluations, like you mentioned, those peer reviews, or it can be as a collective with maybe a suggestion box or an improvement box. And once we've identified those issues, we can work towards solving them together. And when you work towards a solution together, it brings you closer. So great. Any other questions there? I see quite a bit.
Oh yeah, that's good that you're all engaging, I guess.
Yes, we appreciate that.
Session for all of you. I see another interesting question is there a limit for feedback, or can we accept everything?
I think that's a really interesting question.
I think so too.
Yeah, a limit for feedback. I don't know if there's a limit for feedback, and I don't know if there is what it would be. But I think that all feedback is important. And with the feedback, we can evaluate who we are and what we are as leaders. Whenever we get feedback, if it's positive feedback, then we can see, okay, this is good. This is something that I can continue. If we get negative feedback, then we can take a pause, look at it and say, all right, let me work on this. How can I do better? Because remember, we are going to not look at this negative feedback as something bad, but an opportunity to do better. Because as leaders, we need to continuously improve. We're not perfect. Hey, we're human beings. And so feedback is really important. And I would say that you should get as much feedback as you can. And from that feedback, you can be able to gauge where you are at and how you want to respond to the feedback that you've been provided with.
Yeah, that's definitely well said, Reese. And also it's important how you give the feedback. So you don't give feedback to overwhelm someone, but actually to give them an opportunity to improve themselves in something that they're struggling with, per se. And also there is a way of giving feedback for, like, something that I learned also from scouting is that when you're giving feedback, you're applying a layer, or we call it the sandwich. So basically you say something positive about the person, so actually something good that he did, then you say something that he or she can improve, and then you finish it up again with a good note. So it's important to not leave the negative impact on someone, but actually to give them, as you know, as you said, to give them a challenge to improve. So yes, make sure you give your feedbacks in a nice way, in a scouty way. Okay.
Yeah. I love that, Fatima. The sandwich thing, I hadn't heard of that before. So that's really cool. I'm gonna have to try it.
Yeah, that really helped me actually. This is actually something that I learned at Wood Batch training. So
Awesome.
yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, I see a question there. How to be a good leader? Well, hey, we just shared 6 tips. So I would recommend taking a look back at those and trying to implement this within your own leadership styles. And yeah, I think being a good leader has a lot to do with who you are and what you want to see in the world. And for me, I've seen good leaders are the ones that inspire others to be leaders themselves. So if you can see a leader and they have other leaders coming up behind them, I think that you're a pretty good leader.
Yeah, well said, absolutely. And yeah, make sure to take a look back at the presentation. I mean, we're recording the video, so I think this will be shared. But yes, thanks for the question. There's another question, and it's actually very interesting, especially in our position. I think it's interesting to cover that. What is the most challenging when you're doing a leadership role in a very young age? Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good question, honestly. And I think I'm going to be honest, all right? There are times whenever you're looked down on because of your age, and people think, oh, you don't have enough experience in life to be a good leader or to be a leader at all. And that's not necessarily the case, because as young leaders, we bring our own expertise, our own skills, our own perspectives to the table. And so it's really important for us to realize this. And whenever we do have those challenges of being looked down on, then, you know, if you have to take a little break, take a deep breath, that's okay. But keep moving forward, because again, these challenges are opportunities to overcome and to become better and to show the world and others around us that we are young leaders for a reason. I think that young leaders are shaping this world. We are scouts. Scouts have leaders at every single level. You have your Cub Scouts, and they have their own little Sixers in their leaders positions there. They have patrol leaders in the Scout section. I know that the Rover section also has leadership positions. And so we can see that leadership is a quality that has been embedded within our movement. And so we have young leaders all around the globe. And I know that we're going to have challenges, but no matter your age, you're always going to run into some obstacle. And I just want to encourage you all that we believe in you. as young leaders all around the globe. We can see the work that you're doing, and we are inspired by it. And we hope that you will continue to do amazing things throughout your communities.
I mean, I couldn't have said better, Reese. This was very well said. And I think for us as well, I mean, when we started as youth advisors, it's definitely a challenge. And at first you're like, yeah, we need to prove ourselves. And a personal thing from my side as well is that since I was in whatever kind of group, in scouts as well, or at work, or in my community, I was always the youngest, so I was always had the challenge of proving myself that I'm capable of doing things and actually inspiring young people to do things. I think one of the best examples of that in scouting is also our MOP heroes. I mean, some of them are at a very young age, and the stories and the impact they have on the communities, it's just amazing. I mean, it's very inspiring. And not only MOP heroes, but all of the great work that young people and young scouts are doing in their communities and their countries, it's just amazing, and it's very inspiring for me. This gives a lot of a sense why we're doing scouting, what is our purpose, and takes us back to the roots of scouting. So I'm here with you, Reese. I just want to say, also encourage you all to do great things. You're already doing great things. And just keep scouting, just keep being those young leaders.
I totally agree. Love the message, Fatima. And let's take a look, because I think we got like a whole bunch of new questions. So we're not gonna be able to address all of them, but we'll see how much we can get answered. I see here another question about what are the benefits of being or trying to be a leader? Fatima, any words of advice there?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. What are the benefits? Well, first of all, I think being a leader is a challenge that you put on yourself. It's one of those hats that you put on as a challenge. The benefit is that you learn and you experience on how leadership works. So again, learning by doing. You can't be a perfect leader from the beginning. I mean, you have to learn and work your way through it. But when you do that and you get some experience and you start working on yourself and your abilities as a leader, what you do is, I think one of the important things, and especially in scouting, is that you inspire others to be leaders and to challenge themselves. And I think for us as youth advisors, it's also important to do that. That's why we're trying to stay connected to young people in the NSOs, and actually to let them know that youth advisors are making change as well. You all are making changes in your communities. You don't necessarily have to be called a leader for that. You can be a part of your scout group and your local group, but you can do something that will be inspiring for next generations, or for Cub Scouts to do in 10 years. So yeah, I think by learning and by challenging yourself, you're also benefiting from being a leader as well.
Yeah, those are wonderful benefits of being a leader. And I have to say, as we've mentioned throughout this entire presentation, is that leadership transcends all areas of our life. We see leadership within scouting, we see leadership within our personal lives, our academics. And so leadership allows you to have that own professional development within yourself, and it allows you to improve the world around you. Remember, we're scouts, we're creating a better world. And whenever you exhibit your leadership skills, you help your scouts around you to do better, feel better, and your community is to be a better place.
Yeah, definitely, Reese. We have more questions. I would say let's take another two and wrap it up.
All right.
So there's a question. Greetings from the Philippines. Hello. And as a leader, how do you deal and accommodate the different needs of different people and members? Wow. Okay.
That's a really good question. And I think when it comes to addressing needs, it's first important for us to identify those needs. So we have to find out how can we best accommodate to individuals. If it's perhaps something in regards to language, then we need to find areas in which those individuals can still participate. If it's in regards to maybe another type of physical disability or any other area in life that limits them, then as leaders, again, identifying those needs so that we can find a way to best address them. Any other comments to that, Fatima?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Definitely first thing that you need to do is to identify your needs. Also something that you can get is from the feedback that you're getting, right? So feedback of your leaders, like what we do during our events or during our committee meetings is that we're doing evaluation, and according to then going through our analyzing our evaluation forms, we're thinking how we can improve and what are some needs of the team that we can, deal with and to actually solve. So yeah, I think it's important to identify your needs so that you know how to deal with them. Okay, yeah.
Awesome. I'm looking at the questions here, and I see some are kind of similar. So maybe we can look at what I can do to inspire other youths. Words of advice?
Sure. I think we talked about it a bit already, but basically, to inspire someone is, well, it's hard to say, but basically keep doing if you're working on a project or you're doing something in your local group, don't think that it's a very small thing and it's not going to have an impact. If you're doing something for yourself or someone in your group, it's already creating a positive impact. So you're making a change. So start with that. Also, remember that in our lives right now, we're in 2022, it's important to share what you're doing. So like for us as youth advisors as well, we're challenged, and it's really important for us to keep communicating everything in our social media channels and in our emailings and everything so that we stay connected. So it's important for us to also see what you're doing and for others as well. So yeah, as I said, don't think that you're doing something small. The change starts with something small, and make sure that you share it with your community and within your social media channels so that we also accept the challenge. We'll also see the progress that you're making and that we can also get inspired by you. I hope it was clear.
I totally agree, especially the share parts, because we should highlight what you're doing. Your leaders out there making a difference, and we want to hear about it. So that actually is going to bring us to the end of our presentation. And we wanted to remind you all to share, share about your experience here at Jota Joti, share about your own leadership journeys, and use the hashtag Jota Joti, of course. And don't forget to tag Jota Joti and World Scouting, because again, we want to hear from you all. And I know so many people have been asking us for the code. So there it is, everybody, the Challenge Valley code for our session. Please remember that it is all capital letters. So you have GE4NR, and I hope that it will contribute to your challenge accomplishments. Well, I think that's the end of it. I'm kind of sad because, it was really great talking to y'all, and we loved your contributions, your questions.
Yep, make sure to follow all of us on the social media, use the hashtags when you share something, and see you all around Jota Joti.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Have fun.